Welcome to the Production Talk podcast with me, Jan of mixartist.com.au. In this podcast series, we celebrate the modern way of producing music. We want to talk about all things related to songwriting, recording at home, and music production. So if you produce your music at home, this is the place to be. Please subscribe and recommend this podcast to all your friends. This is the Production Talk podcast, episode 71. Welcome back to another episode of the Production Talk podcast. At the beginning of this episode, as always, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the country that we are meeting on today, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation. And I would like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. With me today, sitting in our living room right in front of me, is Mr. Mick, McHUGH of the band The Gathering. We worked together on a live show the other day, and here we are again, both locals to the area. Welcome to the show. How are you, Mick?
Thanks, Jan. Yeah, I'm very good. Delighted to be here.
Fantastic. It's really good to see you. Look, we've known about one another for a long time, but we sort of always missed each other until we finally got to work together on a show. It was good fun. I really enjoyed your energy.
Thanks very much.
You had so much fun on stage. You could really, it was just oozing out of you, the big smile and the energy on stage. What gets you going as a musician?
Well, thanks, Jan, and that's a big part of what I'm aiming for. To see people having a good time, really, it's a pleasure of a job. Being able to be relaxed and enjoy myself on stage, that's come with hours on the job.
Yeah, right.
I'm a firm believer of hours on the job. I had the passion from the start to do what I want to do. But I've really noticed that the more I've played the gigs, I can actually enjoy the gigs even more and more. And seeing everyone, there was a park party in our area, to see everyone, all the kids celebrating. And after a couple of years that we haven't had it because of COVID, all of those things, it's an amazing job. To see people having a good time, that gets me going.
Fantastic. Do you still get nervous before shows?
Yeah, there's an element of it. It varies depending on the show. So yes, and I think it's healthy because I'm thinking about the set list. I'm living in the moment. I'm watching what's happening out there even before I go on. I'm seeing where they're at. I'm looking, even say that gig, for example, I was like, right, the sun will be going down near the end. So yeah, I'm thinking a lot and that's why I think that's how I am as a person, and music has been really brilliant for me. I channel all of that into my performance. I'm watching what's going on and try to be very aware. So,
wow, okay. There's a lot of wisdom and experience in that already right now. Wow.
I'm not saying I always execute it brilliantly, but yeah, there's a lot of thought.
Good, fantastic. Look, let's talk about the early days for a moment. How old were you when you learned that you were a musician, when you figured that out for yourself?
Very, very late. I would say I was 22.
Okay, wow.
22 was never on my radar. Yeah. Never. I didn't understand or know really that I could be a musician. Maybe I grew up in a family where music is so in Ireland as well. So I'm Irish. Music is a part of the culture, and I can see that now. So I learned from osmosis in that every family gathering with the cousins, they were singing. Everyone would sing, but I wouldn't sing. I was too shy, and I would sit there almost embarrassed, even though I wasn't singing. It's just that was the way I am, and still am a little bit like that. And it's amazing that I've found music. So there's all those kinds of experiences. There's my dad blasting Neil Diamond, the Beatles, and I mean, he didn't just play it; he blasted it. It was loud, right? So, there's my mum, or my mam, as we'd say in Ireland. She is playing and still always has the radio on in every single room and singing along with songs. So music is there. And then I'm 14, as an example of your osmosis and how you're learning, you're just soaking it all up. I'm 14. I'm in Ireland in a little country town on summer holidays. And we used to go off and play the arcade games, and we had to come back and meet the parents at the end of the night at 11 o'clock. They were at the pub drinking. It was like a summer holiday buzz. And we come in for the last half an hour, get a 7-Up or a Coke, a cola, sit there. And at that point, it was a tiny little pub. If you imagine the size of your lounge room or your kitchen, and each person in that pub would stand up and take a turn of singing with their holding their glass, eyes closed, sometimes crying, sometimes really like getting everyone going. So I'm 14, I've watched all of this, and I understand now, since I left, I emigrated from Ireland at 28. When I left Ireland, I really understood and how much music had been exposed to me in my life, and I've gone back there for trips, and it's always on the TV. Music is really massive part of Ireland.
Amazing.
Yeah,
wow.
I'm very lucky now, I guess. So,
yeah, right.
So 22 I am. My story is that I'm an engineer. I went straight out of school into become a polymer engineer, which is plastics engineering, because I was into woodwork and technical kind of subjects. So followed that path, did a 5-year degree, got a first class honours. But I knew from my second year, there was something else calling me, almost like a vocation. I was searching for something else, but I didn't know what else I wanted to do. So I stayed with the degree because I knew I could do that. And, I suppose the little thing in your ear of, you should do the right thing, and for safety of your life, and from your parents, make sure you have something good behind you. But every year I would go traveling in Ireland. I was in Germany, lived in Munich for a summer, amazing, 1997. So I was in France in 98 for the World Cup. So I went traveling around, and every time I was away, I was alive. I had this feeling, right? So I'm getting this feeling of how I can be, and then coming back going, okay, I'm doing this, but I'm not alive. I'm not excited by life. But I chipped away at the degree. I finished it. And then within the year, I'm, in a job in making Hewlett Packard's ink cartridges at 8 o'clock Monday morning meetings. Hewlett Packard were not happy with some little bit of the ink cartridge. And I was having out-of-body experience, looking down on myself going, I can't do this. How can I be here? And the guy who was my boss was 20 years out of the same course of me that I'd done. And I ended up getting really, really bad depression. I can see now that I was building up to it, but I didn't understand it at the time. It was really huge, where it rocked my world, and I left that job, and I wasn't myself probably for at least 3 months, a lot of crying, and 6 months, before I really was able to come out of that shell. I was embarrassed. It was 20 years ago at least. It wasn't so... it's talked about a lot more now with mental health, right? And yeah, I was living with an amazing friend. I did tell my family after about 3 months, and they said, do you want to look at medication? And I said, I think there's something else calling me. So I'm going to take a sidestep in my life. I was very lucky. I know I'm privileged in that I was able to do that. It was the Celtic boom. There was jobs everywhere. So I said, I'm going to take a sidestep, see what else is out there in my life, and I can always come back to it. So I took a sidestep, and I was like, what makes me happy? Why am I happy when I'm traveling? And I realized I would be at a party watching somebody playing guitar. Say at the end of a night, in Ireland, you go out a few drinks, then you go to the pub for a few drinks, then you go out to the nightclub for a few drinks. You're back home to someone's house. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Out comes the guitar, and we sit there singing with a few drinks till 3 or 4 in the morning. And I realized that was one of the things. I was staring at my friend going, I wish I had learned guitar. I wish I could do that. I spoke up. I said that, and my friend, said, it's easy. I'll show you a few chords, and showed me 2 chords. And I had that hard journey of like riding a bike, I say, or learning to drive, where it's really uncomfortable. Your fingers hurt. It doesn't sound like the people that you are listening to. It's really, really uncomfortable for 6 months. For me, it was. I didn't get lessons. I was too nervous or shy. But, about 6 months in, I was able to sing along and play a song together at home. And then a year later, after starting the guitar, I bumped into an Aussie lady, which is why I'm now living in Australia 20 years later. She was the first friend. It's a really romantic story, of course. Sounds made up, but I met her on a weekend of a thing called 5 Rhythms. So that's why I live in Byron Bay. This was a hippie event, which my friend was going to. I said, yes, I'll go to that. And I went along, and there was these people dancing the emotions of the heart. I was freaked out when I walked in. There was people doing this kind of, you can dance by wiggling your finger, move your toe, you do what you want. By the end of that weekend, my Aussie lady was there. We got chatting, and we went home together, and I hanging out, and I sang to her. Never sang to anyone in my life. Of course, we're in love. I want to impress her. I sang a David Gray song to her, and she said, and she's a singer-songwriter, and she said, you've got a really nice voice, you should keep doing it. And we're in love. So I told her there and then that night, I'm going to marry you, thinking I was cool. I was like, I know. She goes to me, I know. So we moved in together 2 weeks later and been together ever since. But that next day after meeting her, so I'm a year into guitar, I'm at a cafe buzzing off my head because I've met the woman of my dreams. And I was at a cafe in Dublin and I asked the waiter for a pen and paper. Because they used to have a pen and paper then in their pocket. I was like, can I have a pen and paper? And started songwriting. My wife is a songwriter and had a CD and given it to me and I was listening. I was inspired. So I was hooked. Now, learning a song, my aim was to be able to, I suppose, maybe it was ego, to learn a song to play at a party. But once I started songwriting, I was a goner. I was gone. It opened up a whole other world. I wasn't great at English or languages. I was much more into the technical subjects, as I said. So suddenly I was like, yeah, I suppose I had permission. I was there with a guitar and songwriting and I was hooked.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a bit of a long-winded answer there, but that is it.
What a story.
It is a bit of a wild story. It even shocked me and I shocked myself because I'm, an engineer. I think things through, but not when it came to the heart. I was just gone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you until you started recording yourself?
Well, my wife, now wife, so she had a 4-track. We still have it at home. It was a 4-track. I'm trying to think what was the model, but it was a 4-track digital recorder. So this is around the year 2001, 2002. It's a 4-track digital recorder. So she arrived with that when we moved in together. And so within the year, I was recording my own demos at home.
Cool.
I wasn't sharing them with everyone or putting them up online or doing, I don't know if we even did that then. You probably would have made a CD. But there was a few trusted people who I knew who played guitar, as in I trusted them and felt comfortable. So I would share them songs with those people. But mostly it was, I suppose, for my own learning. And my family, my mum, family, I would love listening to them. So I was recording within the year, but very basic setup. I'm talking like a 58, vocal mic that you would use for a live gig and plugging in the guitar. But my guitar, I didn't know what I was doing, but it was great. I was into it early. So
yeah, right. Well, you got to learn somewhere. You got to start somewhere and make your mistakes in order to
That's
learn.
right, so. Yeah. So it was good for me because I had that. I was, a lot of comfortable space to explore my voice and explore, recording and stuff. So it was a really good space without spending money. And I think, again, maybe just the way I am, maybe I present sometimes a bit nervous or I can be a bit nervous or overthink. So having that space was good for me.
Okay. Well, it really sounds like you steered your life around.
I did.
And, you changed everything, basically.
I did,
You changed direction big time there.
Yeah, big time. And I've been on that track ever since. And that's, must be 20, it's 20 years actually, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah, 20 years. Now, for the first 5 years, I was just doing open mic nights in Dublin, but I knew it was what I wanted to do. But you have to believe in yourself. You have to keep getting, back up on the horse and keep getting out there. And I had some horrendous situations. So I ended up teaching English as a foreign language to students in Dublin as my income because we had our first kid pretty soon after meeting within, a year. And so I needed to keep the income coming in. So I was teaching English and I enjoyed that job because I was able to do it because I had a degree, I did a course and I enjoyed it because, as I said, I loved traveling. So it gave me a connection with people who were, had that feeling. So I was addicted to that kind of people who were buzzing and stuff. So I did that. I was doing my open mic nights on my bike into the city, once our kid was kind of set up and I would go in there and I'd do my open mic nights and I had some horrendous situations. I walked off, remember the engineer at the front saying, hey, how's your EQ? And you get something along the lines of, is your EQ flat? I had no idea what any of that meant. So he's talking about my guitar. I was like, what is EQ? Is it flat? I have no idea. So I was freaked out. And then, I was already nervous because he said that to me. And then this was my sound check for my open mic night. And then I walked off the stage with my guitar still plugged in. Yeah.
Oh no!
yeah. So I had, I did lots of that, and you have to do those things. I'm kind of glad, I must say, I'm so happy that I, got to explore make all those mistakes in the times when phones weren't around. My God, it's not easy to be start out now today. I would imagine everyone has a phone, records every situation. I've done horrendous things on stage, and I had to just do that. Happens, and you get up and you learn, and you have to go back and face them again, face those gigs, face those people. Okay. But I was getting to explore my songs, I guess, is the most important thing. I was getting feedback and I was like, I knew people were enjoying them. So it's like you're getting a pat in the back. You're on a marathon or your own little run, and people are enjoying it. You're playing your 3 to 5, maybe 6 songs, up to half an hour, and people enjoyed it. So coming out to Australia, I was 28. It was 2005, and I suppose there was a clean break in my movement of emigrating over here to Australia with my wife and our kid. And I decided that was it. I'm never going to do another job. Music will be my full-time job. And I think that clean break helped. Maybe it would have been a bit hard to just drop everything in Dublin. I had a permanent job, not teaching, and you do have support your family. But coming out here, there was just this little window. Is like, I have to go for it. And when I came to Australia, this is a really important thing. I believe if you're a young up and coming songwriter, musician, or whatever art that you want to travel into. I was working, I arrived over, we just staying with my wife's parents just for the first few months, and I just had a job of 20 hours a week at the local football leagues club, just so we had a bit of income coming in. And I'm in there working, and one of the bar staff said to me, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "I'm a singer-songwriter." That was the first time I said it out loud to someone. And that's a really important thing you have to do at some point. You have to take the courage to say that's who you are. That's what you are. And there I was working in the league school, but I knew this is it. Like, that was just to keep the money coming in. I was like, no, I'm a singer-songwriter. And, I haven't released a CD. I haven't done anything. But soon enough, I ended up being, they knew I played guitar because I spoke up. And then the manager said, "Hey, we're going to start." They had 2 rooms. They had the main room where there was kind of the RSL kind of backing track guys, which I'd never seen before. I was freaked out by that backing track. All that sound. But in the bar side, he said, "We just want an acoustic Friday. Would you do it?" I was like, "Yep." I could not play one cover song at that point in my life because I was an original singer-songwriter in my mind. That's it, You're maybe that youth in you's like, "Oh, I don't play cover songs." I had learned a couple when I was starting out, but I went out and bought a PA, drove up to Cairns, bought a PA on the Monday. He said it to me in the weekend. We drove up, bought a PA, and I set it up in the lounge room, and every single day I learned 4 cover songs, plus I had about 12 or 20 of my own originals, but maybe 12 I played. So, and I went into the pub that Friday, and really that was my first gig. And it was scary because you got to picture this. I'm playing to guys in far north Queensland who have been working hard on sugarcane and banana crops, and these are mechanics. Like, this is the bar side. This is like got him right now. I was brave. Yeah, but they were good as well. They knew me. They just called me Irish, of course. They knew me from the bar. But like, it wasn't their kind of music. I wasn't playing. Even the covers I learned probably weren't what they were into. But I did it, and I did that every Friday until the cyclone came in 2006 up there. So we'd lived there for about 6 months in total. I now had a PA. I was now gigging. And we flew to Perth to do a journey from Perth to Byron Bay with an Irish guy who we'd met in Dublin. He was walking the country to encourage people to follow their dreams. And we became his support crew. I was obviously following my dream to be a musician, and we were going to support his walk. And my wife is a writer, and as well as songwriter. She wanted and has written a book since then. And so myself, my wife, our daughter, 3-year-old, we flew to Perth. Met the man again, and we travelled from Perth to Byron Bay over about a year and a half, inspiring people to live their dreams.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, what a story.
Yeah, there's a lot, isn't there? I know.
You took a lot of risks there.
I did, and I still do. I take a lot of risks, and that's a good point, Jan, because I'm sure it's the same for you in your life. As I think anyone who's an artist or and in business, like when you're going for something, risk is a huge part of it, and you have some wins and some losses.
Yeah, definitely. Did you experience any setbacks and resistance in your social life? People discouraging you from taking those steps? Were there people who said, "Don't become a musician, play it safe, go back to being an engineer"?
Overall, my mind says no, and I think part of that is because I was over here and I had my own. I was away from 10,000 miles from my family, perhaps. Because my dad, for sure, like you've got kids, I've got kids. That my dad would often say to me, "Come on, Michael, don't be silly with different things." I would have done. Like, I went traveling. It was when I was in France. That time we traveled down to Morocco. Me and my best friend, we were going to keep going. Let's keep going. My dad, and I rang my dad. He's like, "You got to stop." So you do need that, of course. So I suppose there was those little bits where my dad and my mum, they support me, but of course they have that worry. But I wouldn't really say it was setbacks from them, but I knew it was there. Maybe it drives me on as well to prove that I will do this because this is what I want to do. And because I was in Australia, I really didn't have a circle around me that was saying I shouldn't do it. So, and then I was on a dream inspiring people for a year and a half. I was on a journey, with that, but the journey was believe in your dreams. And so I was meeting people who were being inspired by me, driving this inspiration. Then I landed in Byron Bay and I gigged my heart out. So no, I think I kind of had a lot of positive things in terms of the circle I was moving in, and I was away from I suppose if I was back home within my circle of friends, they might say, "What are you up to, mate?" But I was away in my own unit with people who were doing a journey of dreams.
You had a clean break.
But setbacks, setbacks. So in terms of that, maybe, I'm sure there were a few, but none come racing to mind. The setbacks I've had have been where I've been told, because I still am quite, I suppose, a gentle singer-songwriter. My music is, I've been in pubs and I've been told, you're not suitable. Don't come back. I've been roared at from across the beer garden on a Sunday with people, a crew who certainly weren't in my audience, only down in Ballina, and people, I've been told loads of times, so I've had lots of setbacks in terms of you're not suitable. You're not suitable. And that hurts. It hurts, But you just have to keep getting up and going again. Like, I'm always on for analogies, but my one that's kept me going is I'm like a door-to-door sales person with the vacuum cleaner or the encyclopedias. You don't stop. Your life depends on it. I remember someone said to me way back at the start when I was here in Byron area, and I found myself got myself a residency at Mullumbimby Bowls Club. And what I used to do back then was I went around to every single venue that had music. I looked up the local paper, saw where all the gigs were. And I went to every single place with my bio printed out of my music, like a CV, and I had my 3 songs and a CD. And I went to every single one venue and, asked for the manager, gave it to them. And then I would follow up religiously. I had my calendar. Oh, well, we're booked out for 3 months. They would always say, maybe they don't, trying to get rid of you. Then I'd call up in 3 months. He's not here now. Call up. When is he back? He's back on Monday. Call again. So I kept knocking on the door. Yep. And finally, some guy then down the RSL said, we're thinking of doing music at the Mullumbimby Bowls Club. You want a Saturday residency? Boom, I got it. So I had a Saturday residency. And then, I ended up getting a lot of gigs in the area. So someone said to me back then, and wow, you have a lot of gigs. You've amazing how many gigs you have. And I said, it's my job. I have a family, I have a kid. I don't understand. What do you mean I have a lot of gigs? It's like, they were like, how are you getting so many gigs? Like, this is what I do. So I think putting myself out on a risk and out on a limb, pushed me on to keep getting gigs.
Wow, okay. It all comes from basically connections and persistency, I guess.
It does,
right.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, you got to keep
so
going.
It's interesting that you mention this because, I'm really into the business side. I'm consider myself a student of the business side, and I just came across an interesting resource where somebody basically pointed out just how important it is to not just make connections, but consistently follow up. Yeah. And even if people say, no thanks, 3 times in a row, on the 4th day, you might have an open door there. So that is 100%. So
and if you're, so this is for going out to younger musicians who might be looking for gigs, you've got to also consider, some of the big venues are not like this, but a lot of venues, the manager, to someone who looks after the music booking, they usually have a lot of roles. They're not just looking after the gigs, they're doing so much. Yes. They're usually underpaid and overworked, right? Mm-hmm. And you might get them on, so they just book it in for 6 months because they don't have the time to deal with it, your passion and your energy for it. But you can just get them in the right moment. Like, just so I suppose, don't take it personally. Like, they have a lot going on usually, these people. So you just hang in there, keep coming back. If they say, and I think that shows, show a good business head. It really, I took that on as well because I had been, worked in that school. I ended up doing a little bit of management work when they had summer schools and stuff. So I think I became a full-time musician at the age of 28. I'd left university at 22. So I had those 5 years working in different jobs and knowing what I really wanted to get into. So when I became a musician and I have a family to support, I really made sure that the business I realized was, almost 50% was business, 50% was your music. If you have to put your time into the music, into the business side of it. Oh, yes. I should also give a shout out to a local, the Lismore Conservatorium. Listen to this for amazing synchronicity. I arrived, so I said I went from Perth to Byron Bay. I arrived in the area where I was like, this is it. I'm a musician, and I'm opening our local newspaper here called The Echo, the Byron Echo, and there's an ad for a free music business course at the Lismore Conservatorium. And I had just arrived, so I did a 3 to 4 month music business course, and that was unbelievable. So that just helped me understand invoicing. That we had lots of brilliant stuff. So I should really mention that was brilliant. So if you should do, consider maybe a 2 to 3 month business course, if it's a night school. It doesn't need to be massive, but these days you could probably find a lot of stuff online, some tutorials. So I did have that help to get me going. But what is this? Nice. The synchronicity to arrive in an area, and that was there. So that helped.
Fantastic. Well, obviously, your success proves that this is a valuable skill to have. Your story is evident there. Wow, amazing. Yeah. Look, let's change the subject for a moment. I'd like to talk to you about the story of one of your songs, from the initial idea to how it comes out eventually on the album.
Okay.
Let's talk about songwriting first. Yep. Have you got a certain method how your songs come together? Do you start with lyrics? Do you start with a melody? Or do you start with guitar chords? Or do you just go to a computer program a beat and jam? Or what's your way?
Okay, so definitely not yet. I don't do the computer and the beat and stuff, but I've only really discovered the home recording thing over the last couple of years, so that may happen. So I suppose the other thing I would say is it has changed. It has developed. Yeah,
of course.
And there are, I suppose, a dip in and out of different things, but predominantly, so I'm a acoustic guitar singer-songwriter. That's what I am. So it often comes from that. So I think early days, I was always writing. I wrote a lot. I almost wrote the songs start to finish. Well, yeah. So I used to just write the song, and then I used to make the chords and the melody fit around it. Then I suppose later then it would be I'd be jamming away my guitar, and then I would end up hearing a melody within the chords I'm playing, and I might have a phrase that is there, and I'd hook onto that. Mm-hmm. And then I've also taught myself piano. When I say taught myself piano, that's so I can play it for myself or on recordings. But that has been good for me because I play guitar at gigs every weekend. You can lose a little. I can do 4 gigs on a weekend, Thursday, or maybe even a double on a Sunday, and they can be 3 to 4 hour gigs. Do you think I want to pick up a guitar on a Monday? But have myself a piano, and next thing I'm just sitting tinkering on a piano, and it doesn't matter, mostly in the key is C, but I can change the key then later. So that has helped me then. I discover new things, and then I might work that out on the guitar. Also, learning new tunings and having different instruments around. So I've got my mandolin there. I've got a rack of guitars in different tunings. So just because then I suppose mostly I'm just jamming on my instrument, and I have my lyrics, and they kind of something clicks. I grab a lot nowadays as well with my phone. I used to do it in a little voice recorder, notes all the time. Nowadays it's in my notes in my iPhone. Any little phrase I hear, I grab it. So if I can, I'd like to give you an example of a song, maybe from start to finish.
Please.
So there's a song called A Good Day, and that comes out from, just to show the journey of a song. So someone described me as I write from the emotional landscape, and when I was recording producer, I worked on my last album. I thought, I think that does describe me well. So I'm in a gig in Dublin, watching a guy called Christy Moore, who is probably one of our biggest folk musicians to come out of Ireland, and I'm watching him, and his gigs these days, he's maybe 78. You do not take your phone out in this guy's gigs. It's sit and listen. No drinking, no phones. He's 78. He's been a musician all his life. You sit and you listen. Anyway, in between the songs, he says, he got this deep, matured voice. Any day you make it home in one piece is a good day. And I thought, that's a good line. This is something, it just hit me. I don't know why. It resonated with me, right? So I pull out my iPhone, maybe an iPhone 4 I had back then. So I didn't even have the thumb, or the face recognition. I had to type in underneath my seat. I've got my phone, because I do not want that light to go off. And I'm typing in my password, and I'm writing that down, because what I've experienced is you think you'll remember it I don't, and I think a lot of people, it gets away from you. There's something in that moment. Write it down. Just write your words down. So I have that there. Any day you make it home is a good day. Maybe did he even say it was a good day? I can't. Anyway, so that's the basis of it. Then it's maybe that was December. It's 2 or 3 months later. I'm back in Australia in January. 2 or 3 months later, I think it's March. I'm in New Zealand touring with the Irish musician, and we're in Christchurch. Christchurch had it's 2013. They had the earthquake in 2011. 185 people died in that earthquake, and it was a shock when we arrived there 2 years later. I wasn't prepared. There's still lots of empty blocks and rubble everywhere, and using those empty blocks as car parks. And so you suddenly, if I can pardon the expression, it looks like a bomb has gone off in the place. You can't. It hits you. I went for a walk in the city, and I saw this piece of art where there was an empty block where there used to be a building, and they'd put out 185 white chairs representing the people who died, and that was a office chair, a baby chair, a stool. So all these there, and it hits me. And there's a book. There's a book there that you could write something in, and that line comes flooding back. And I wrote it down in there. I said, any day you make it home on one piece is a good day, a good day. And I went home, strummed the guitar, bang. I just, I've got the strumming, I've got the opening, and I'm singing that line over it. So and then I was hooked. I get really hooked on it. I can't stop thinking about it. And it's not hard from there. It's screaming to get out of me. And and that's it. That's an example of one.
Wow. Okay. It's a really deep.
Like I said, I know I'm so dramatic. I sound I know, but that's why I'm a songwriter. And as I said, it was Shane Howard who said that to me, and I thought he's brilliant, elder of the arts, who said you're it's the emotional landscape is where you're really living in a lot of those. And I was like, yeah, it's good. So
that's a good place to be. And how did the song change over the years to follow? From that moment on, when you sort of gave birth to the song, to the point where it was actually recorded.
Yeah.
Did you change the arrangement, or do you speed it up, or change keys, or how did it evolve?
Yeah, good point. And that's a great thing, because they do become your baby. And if you've had kids, perhaps this will help. The analogy is that you can do all these things and they're under your wing. But even a kid, up until about the age of 5, but once they go to school, they get exposed, and you have to let go. You have to let them grow. You have to let them do their thing. Similarly, with the song, it's your baby but you have to send it out to the world. So on that album where that song is on, I worked with them, 2 producers. One was really it was a co-songwriter and senior co-producer, and then there was the main producer. So I had to let go a lot. So the key, I had it in a higher key, but I was willing to trust. I trusted these guys, and you have to have that with your producer. Either you do it yourself, or you trust these guys, these people that you work with. You have to, either you're
no middle ground. Yeah,
you're in or you're out. I mean, you can disagree, but So I had it in a higher key. They brought me down. I'm a capo, I'd say in Dublin, or capo, because I'm in Australia. I'm a capo man. So they just go, no, lower the key in that one, and then. Within the production, then they were like saying, sing. So how do I give this? Maybe just before, it's like a pre-chorus line, and before going into the chorus, you said, repeat that line, for example. But maybe my engineer was going, no, but there has to be 2 lines before the pre-chorus. He goes, no, there's going to be 3 lines. Sing it again, like an extra bar. Stuff like that. So I was like, okay. Then I went to the chorus, and he cut that into half the length. Then at the end, they were saying, so there's all these things that happen, and I remember he turned around to me and says, I know it's hard, this is hard for you, but you're just going to trust us. And so I did trust, and I'm really happy with it. But I suppose another part of this is a song recording is a snapshot in a certain moment, like a photograph. You take a photograph of yourself on any given day, right? I could record that, and I have dreams. I'll do my best of, or the acoustics thing. So I still have ideas of, maybe it should be like this. And also, you keep playing the song, so a song develops and stuff. So also, I think you have to let go and say, that's that song at that given moment with those people who worked on it. Bang, that's what happened. It doesn't mean it can't have other slight little directions, but you do, if you're working with people, I think you need to go for it. So Yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so when you listen to the song today, you know, as it comes from the record, as it was produced, are you used to it, or do you still hear your initial arrangement in the back of your mind?
No, I'm pretty used to it. My main thing that I struggle with is probably my vocals. I always think that they can be better, and I think it's okay because I think the artist,
you and everybody else.
Yeah, so that's why I think that's okay because you hear your own voice sounds different to how it comes out in a record.
That's so true.
But that is how you sound. You have to accept that. But also, of course, it's as we said, that photo was on that day. Like if I did it the next day, it's going to be a little bit different. Do it 5 years later. I've been singing every weekend. My voice has matured. My voice is different. So, I suppose I hear those things. I'm thinking like, oh, it could be this. But overall, no, it's still. No, I'm still like I like it. Yeah, I'm still happy with it.
And how long was the process of capturing this album?
Well, this album, so the album that's on is called A Million Stars. I had done, I think that was my 6th CD that I released. And I don't like any of the previous ones, you know. It's just a bit of a joke, but that's you know, you get through all these, every recording, you keep thinking you're going to do better. And so that keeps you on. That's what I was going to say is that you should have that because that keeps you driving on. So the process, well, that was a crowdfunded album. And I had, that song was really the lead song. And I had a few other songs around that. Then, let's see, to think of time frame, so did I say I wrote that song? It would be 2013. Then we did the crowdfunding campaign. I think it was 2014 into 15, and then we started the recording. But so I took that song down to Shane Howard, who I worked with. He is from a band called Goanna here in Australia, who's solid rock. People would know that song, I would say, from 40 years ago. Has done a lot for Indigenous rights here in Australia and a great voice for a lot of environmental issues. So I was really proud to work with Shane, and I've full trust in who he is and what he is as a songwriter. He's got huge connections to Ireland as well. He's written songs over there. So I was very I suppose, what's the word? I was over the moon to be working with him. I couldn't believe it. So I got to work with him and went down with him. And I thought, we're just going to get stuck into my songs. But first of all, we're having lunch. And I said to him during our lunch, I was telling him a story about, you talk about setbacks. I was telling him a story of when I was at a club where I wasn't suitable. I walked in and I wasn't suitable and I knew it, but it was a Friday night. And I was telling him a story of that, of I'd just gone a bit further out, too far outside my bubble, maybe my Byron Bay bubble of doing my little hippie love songs. And I thought I was, and I said to him, oh, sometimes you're not in Kansas anymore. And he stops, he looks at me, clicks his fingers. We're going to write that song. So after lunch, we went into his little shed, 2 lads, 2 guitars, 2 acoustic guitars, and I'm surrounded by memorabilia from his career. I'm like, oh man, this is so cool. And he guided me and led me with that song. And we wrote, now that one was written in an afternoon. So we just bang, we were like, it flows out. Now I had written some lyrics at the train station on the way down and in Melbourne. I can't think of the name of the train station in Melbourne, but I had done, I had gigged Friday night, Saturday night, 2 or 3 gigs on the Sunday, gone to bed about 2 or 3 in the morning, got up on the Monday morning, flew from the Gold Coast down to Melbourne, took a train out 3.5 hours, arrived at his house about 6 o'clock. So they'll talk about work ethic, that's the kind of thing you got to be willing to do as well to get where you want to go. But so I had a big journey on the Monday. I was writing lyrics all day. I was in the train station. My dad was sick and I knew, coming to the end, I was writing some lyrics around that, about this world takes all that you've got. And I was sitting in the city, feeling scared, feeling vulnerable, nervous about where I was going, tired, and so I had some lyrics around that. Then the next day we're in Shane's shed and he said, that's the song we're going to write. He wrote a few things straight away. I presented that, bang, the song came together. We went off. So I didn't really understand how it's probably been one of my most popular songs in terms of contests. It's done really well. And I didn't even see it at the time. And that's Shane's brilliance and guidance and maybe the magic of just being in the moment and a strong phrase, working with someone who you really get on with. But we wrote that song. And did we write another song that afternoon, later that day? But we went away. Like I left his house, stayed at my friend's. I couldn't stop thinking about the song. And I came back in the next morning, 10 o'clock, we used to meet. I was down there for 4 days. I came back in the next morning and the first thing I said, or one of us said to the other, I was thinking about that song. And, the other turned around and said, me too. So both of us were, and I was like, verse 1 should be verse 3. Verse 3 should be, he's like, yeah, and that needs to be cut in half. So we spent nearly another day just fine tuning it, and we left with a really, really good demo. And that that's called Not in Kansas Anymore. It was a top 10 finisher in like American Songwriting Contest. And
wow.
Yeah, it was really good. Like it's done really, and being so well received, people just, it does something to people. So, yeah. There's another journey of a song, so I suppose there's no. But I suppose the thing that matches up in those two stories is I get hooked. There's a bit of a line there, and you're just hooked. Something grabs you. Something grabs you. Right. Is there an antenna? Is there? But there's a passion for songwriting. There's a passion for the song. Passion for the song. It's not about you. It's not about. It's the song. The song is what keeps you going. The song is what is strong. Not you. Not the songwriter. You just seem to grab something. You send it out there. The song is really important.
Yeah. Right. Wow. That's really inspiring. Say. How much of your recordings can you do yourself, and at what stage do you take it to a studio? Okay,
so I'm really a novice. I'm a novice at it. So I said I started out in the early years with my 4-track digital recorder. But when I went to record my music, I always worked with people. So it was only me and my wife were meaning to set up a home studio for many years because I had been in home studios since about 2013. My first couple of CDs were in studios, and so I just brought my songs. And what first CD was produced at the Lismore Conservatorium with one of the guys I'd met from the music business course. Worked with him, and that was my first CD. Then in the studio, so we recorded everything there, and then I ended up going to his house to edit. The second one was done in a lovely old farmhouse in the Northern Rivers. I think we, 8 microphones in the lounge room and just capture the sound. And it was live takes, me start to finish. No, whereas the first one was 4 musicians. We all played together in different rooms. So we're isolated. But the second one, so I suppose every time I did a project, I was like, oh no, this is what I want. So I did that one. Then I did the second one with that kind of, I want a song start to finish. And I do 3 to 4 takes and go, that's the take. And then we added some cello and piano and bits and pieces around it. I didn't do it to a click track. I wanted no click. I wanted it raw feeling. So that was the second one. And that was all done with engineers. Then the third one was something that would happen to me is people would say, oh, hearing you on a record and seeing you live is different. So I was like, okay, I got to do a live one. So there used to be a thing called Mullumbimby Folk Club down at the old Drill Hall. So I recorded a live CD down there. Then I met a student from SAE, and he, actually another part of that I should say is I was putting myself out there. I realised it's something to consider as well for people who want to record. I gig every weekend, so I've got lots of hours gigging. How many times I go into a studio? Because I didn't have my own home studio then. It's once a year maybe, or, for example. So you don't have hours in there. You need to get your hours up there. So I knew that. So I went to SAE and recorded with loads of students back in, I suppose, 2010 to 13. I did a lot of recording with different students and just for the practice of it. So I really recommend throwing yourself in there just because it's a different feeling. I remember there was one example where we recorded a song, back in the SAE day, and then he said, can you just give me a C chord, so we're overdubbing. I played a C chord and goes, there's a buzz there. It turns out my big massive hands were catching a string on the high E string. I didn't know that, and I wouldn't know that from a gig. Yeah. But in a live studio situation, it was. So when you go to recording, it shows you up. It shows up your playing. It shows up all the things.
You're under the microscope.
You're under the microscope. Red lights on.
Hiding,
yeah. And in those situations in SE, obviously it was just practice. So the little bit of red light recording is eased because you're not paying for it. It was for demo purposes, for their learning, for your learning. So to throw yourself into recording situations if you're starting out, so you get hours on the job. That's my belief. So we had that SE, and one of those students, we ended up working at his home studio then, and I did 2 EPs. We were doing an album, broke it into 2 EPs. So that was always my first real home studio experience. We did drums, bass, guitar, vocal live. to capture a live feeling because I was playing with that band then. And then we overdubbed everything from them. We redid our vocals and guitars and stuff, but we had the rhythm section. Then I did a live album which happened by EP happened by accident in New Zealand on that tour in 2013. I was in Dunedin, an old wooden hall, and the engineer captured it. He didn't even tell me, and he emailed me, said, "Hey, I recorded your set," sent it to me, and it was beautiful. It was just me, guitar, and a wooden hall with lovely reverb and a crowd. You could hear a pin drop and nice applause. I was like, perfect. Got Michael Worthington, local guy. I've always pretty much used Michael for most of my CDs, and he mastered it. So that was another one I did. I loved. Yeah, that was a real surprise, and because I didn't know it was being recorded,
it was a fantastic surprise.
Yeah, it was brilliant, and he was very giving with it. He was like, "Nah, you just take it. It was a lovely set. Good on you." And that one was really well received actually on the live, because it really captured me, and I probably wasn't as nervous because I didn't know it was being recorded. So that was a beauty. So that was good. There's another one. And then I think I'm into my studio, what I call my debut studio album, A Million Stars. And that was done. So I said that I did the demo process. Then I went to the predominant producer at he had this big massive shed, I guess, and it was down in Victoria, and so he plays a drummer as well, so him on drums, we had a bass player, an electric guitarist, myself. We were all isolated in a massive, really cool setting, nice lighting, and we recorded all our tracks live there. Then we took them away, and similar to some of the other ones, we overdubbed. I redid my vocals and bits and pieces there again. I want to talk about something else on that record, is my vocals. I was finding that producer, he wasn't getting the vocals from me. I was a bit nervous. I was like, he would say, "You're out of time," or this. And I was just, I wasn't working for me. I was just too nervous. So then we decided that I should go to the other guy, Shane, the co-producer, to do the vocals there, because I'd done the demos there. And so again, I've, I'd done my, 3 to 5 gigs, and that big journey on the Monday, and arrived down at 4 days of doing the vocals. So that was at the very, very end. We just did the vocals, and it worked for us, that one. And I want to tell you about A Million Stars, the title track. When I arrived down that night on the Monday, and I've told you I've done Friday, Saturday, 2 or 3 gigs, and a Sunday, and they're like 3 or 4 hour gigs on my big journey. And Shane said to me, after dinner, I had dinner at his place, 6 o'clock, let's just try your vocals and just get settings and stuff. And he got me to sing A Million Stars with my fragile, burnt out, tired voice. He said, just for, so we know our settings were ready to go in the morning. And then it came to the end of the week, and we've done our 10 tracks. And I was like, we got to do A Million Stars. And he goes, "No, that one's okay." I was like, "Oh." But again, you talk about trust. And he says, "Mick, the song is vulnerable, and your voice is vulnerable, and it cracks. It's okay. Trust me. Just leave it." He said, you captured something there. And that's still like, and people like, I have people who absolutely love that song. I still listen to it and I dream, I'm going to do, a strong vocal on that. But so there's these examples of a producer leading you. Would I have captured that on my own at home studio? I don't think so. I would have said, no way I would have let that out the door. So you have to be vulnerable in your art, I think. Let it out there, and remember that it's okay. You can go again. There'll be other versions. There'll be your anniversary edition, your 10-year, your acoustic version, so all of that. So that's the beauty of the home studio. So then to my most recent album is the an Irish album that I did for ABC Music, and that's a Celtic Kids album. And I did all that from home during lockdown between myself and the producer, Damien Leith. He's set up in his place, and I did a lot of work with Damien actually in his home studios over the years. Whenever I was touring and I was in Sydney, he'd say, "Hey Mick, come on over and we'll record some songs." And we recorded the songs, and I got to see another home studio situation. He inspired me and encouraged me to get myself set up. So he was a big part in me getting my home studio. And some of those songs that we did with him, they're my most recent singles that I've released from him. We tracked them back in the day, and then since my home studio we've ended up doing those again. But with Damien, with the Celtic album, he worked from his studio, I worked from my studio. I got myself set up. I did an online course with somebody called Produce Like a Boss, And as Damien said, he said, you don't need a whole lot to get going. Just get your gear. So I got my Rode mic. Not expensive gear, but maybe $400 Rode NTA, I think it is, and got my Rode NT3. So kind of one for the guitar. So I had a couple of options for different sounds. And I did a course in Logic, bought myself a Mac Mini, a good screen, some Mackie speakers, a Mackie control knob. What else? Actually, the first year, I should say, because if you imagine, as it's 2020 and COVID, kind of the first year, I was just doing my practice, so I didn't have good speakers at the start. But over that year, I kept chipping away at different things and just using a Zoom 4 handy H4 as my interface, and I think it's been okay as far as I know. No one has said anything, but I'm working up to getting my universal, twin Apollo. But for now, we're chipping away at my little studio bits.
Wow.
But that first year, I just worked on my wife's songs a lot. So we had recorded some songs in Ireland for her as a birthday present. 2019, we recorded 4 of her songs, and the engineer sent me the tracks, and then I imported them. I had done this online course with Produce Like a Boss in Logic, and I had watched a lot. I guess I'd been watching. Again, we're talking about osmosis. As I said, how I learned from music, I was watching people for nearly 10 years in the studio. I was watching. So I was able, it wasn't foreign when I got into it, but I have a huge way to go. I'm not claiming any type, I'm a complete novice, but enough that I've managed to, so that was the first year I've managed to make a CD. The first year I was working on my wife's music, which I think was good for me because it wasn't my music as such, and I was spending lots of hours. I couldn't gig, I wasn't able to go out. Most of my gigs are across the border in Queensland, so even when some lockdowns were lifted, I wasn't sometimes allowed across the border. I had a lot of time, made use of that time to set up our studio, do my time on it. Then 2021, this project with the Celtic Kids album with ABC had been building for a few years, and it came to fruition. And next thing, I was recording my vocals, my guitar, and my fiddle players and mandolin players and all my guys who live around here. They all came to my house, and so I would record with the click track, lay down the demo sometimes, and then send it to Damien. The producer, he would put down, he plays bass and piano and a lot of instruments using MIDI drums, all in Logic. He would send it back to me, and so I was laying down guitars and vocals. And
so you were exchanging Logic sessions for and back?
Sorry, not Logic sessions. So like he would just send me an MP3, the WAV file, and I would import that and record to that. That's how I was doing it.
Okay.
So, and he did all the mixing and everything like that. So, but the great thing about recording from home was like I would do 8-9 vocals. And then I would do a comp where you take all the best bits, put it together, send it to him. But I would also send him the 8 or 9 files that I recorded of my vocal. And he would sometimes go, nah, that's wrong. That's not good. That's, again, allow the vulnerability or so. Allowing someone else to have that, to look at your voice and look at your different things. So he would have control not control, but the option to change something. So it was a great project. Really, I'm really, really happy with how it came together, and being able to sing in my own space was brilliant. I got to experience and explore with the microphone and singing, probably the most comfortable I've ever been singing.
Gee, wow.
Yeah,
producing from your home studio for an ABC network release.
Yeah.
That's big.
I was a little nervous because I didn't know the output. I was like, is this going to be like, are the ABC going to, get the thing and say, nah, that's not good enough? But that wasn't the case. And they were so happy they entered it into the ARIA Awards this year. And I was like, okay, they're really, really, they're that happy with it. And it's up with, it's in playlists with the Wiggles, who will be like massive in Australia and worldwide.
Worldwide, yeah.
Yeah, and my streams have gone from tens of thousands up to hundreds of thousands, and will be, the way that one is streaming, it'll be 1 million within a year. No worries. Like it's next level stuff for me.
Fantastic.
Yeah, really good.
And you've pretty much built your career to that stage over a long time. It's not the overnight success. It is basically the hours that you put in again and again and again, and then eventually
it really is. It's relationships. So there's so much I could say.
Good on you for hanging in there.
Yeah, you've got to hang in there. So there's a couple of stories I can there's 2 stories. One is when I was starting out here in the Byron area, a friend said to me that she had been doing it now longer than me, because I'm 28 and she may be doing it since she was 18. She was saying that some of her friends who kept going were just on this gradual increase where she had stopped and started. And every time she stopped, you losing momentum. And then she kind of felt like she'd to start again. Now, don't confuse that with stopping for a mental health break, or, you know, you need to have ebb and flow. But overall, like, that's it, she would give up. But so I remember taking that on, going, like, of course I have my ups and downs and time, but I've hung in there, and it's just this gradual thing, because I'm improving, I'm getting more comfortable, and I always look back and go, oh my God, I'm such a better, like, rhythm guitarist, and my voice has matured better. So I've hung in there, and I remember it's a gradual increase. Forget all these highs and low things. Yeah, you will have some blips in your career, but why are you doing it? You do it because you love it. And if you're in there for that reason, you'll just keep going. And these things happen around you, but you have the passion and the love for your music, sharing it, seeing people have a good time. So there's this gradual increase naturally, because you're improving with every gig you do, hopefully. Another story related to that is the relationships. The guy from the ABC who I'm working with, I met him in 2011 through a program that was here in Byronshire, in where we live. There was 6 musicians taken from the area, and we were part of a brokership program where they brought 6 industry people to the area. We got to perform for them, and we had a meeting with them the next day. And that guy told me, he says, "Oh, we don't really have anything that's suitable to you." And, you know, just he was lovely, and told me, you know, had career advice, but to where what I thought was happening, you know, I'm just trying to get signed. This is my brain, you know, because he was like, no, we don't really have anything in your singer-songwriter thing, because mostly they have country music, I guess. But that was 2011. And then he ended up working with my manager through an artist from Ireland. And next thing, you know, I was tour managing for them as well, and supporting, and you just keep crossing paths with these people, right? So next thing I meet him in 2013, I met him again in 2015, and then I finished my debut album in 2017. I met him at another show, and then we started talking about, kids album, Celtic music. Mick does that, because I do Celtic gigs on the weekend. So the relationship, you stay in there, and all of a sudden it eventuates.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, hang in there.
Wise words, hang in there.
Hang in there.
Such good advice. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Look,
Jan.
maybe the last question for the day. What are your plans for the next year? And of course, also, where can people find you?
All right, for the next year, so I'm back to doing so the Celtic Kids album is like Irish instrumentals and popular Irish songs. The next thing is back to my original songs. I have 2 songs ready to go. One of those is a co-write with Damien Leith, who produced the album. We've got a great relationship now, me and Damien. Again, that relationship goes back to 2006. He was on Australian Idol. He won it. And I was traveling the Nullarbor doing my Believe in Your Dreams, and I saw him on TV, and I messaged him and said, I just wanted to say what you're doing. Like, because he'd had an up and a down. I just sent him a message on MySpace back in the day. I said, go for it. You know, you're doing well. Like, I'm not good. Just good on you. You know, yeah, you came back strong. And we met then at a Fatherhood festival here in the area about 2 years later. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember you. The guy messaged me, and then I met him on a tour. So again, relationships, me and Damien. So for me, as I said a few times, you know, while I'm a performer, my natural side is I might be a bit nervous in those situations, maybe because I'm not a studied or learned musician. But people who I have relationships with, it becomes very comfortable, and I have that with Damien, so I can songwrite and produce and work with Damien so well. So the next song is one that I've done with Damien, and then I have another song ready to. So I have 2 singles ready to go. Then I'm going to work on maybe an album is probably the next step. But I'm so happy that I'll be able to do all that, a lot of it, from my own studio, because you can't. I have 2 kids and a family, and you can't, over the years, you know, hammered myself with some financial situations. So having the home studio has eased a lot of that. So yeah, we've got 2 singles, then hopefully the album, or at least an EP. And I've got an idea of producer. He's a local guy who I want to work with. So I've had a few emails, but I need to kind of develop that a bit more. Just keep making music. I sing every weekend. I love what I do. So I just want to, like, getting out every weekend and playing music is an absolute joy. And after 2 years of that COVID mess, you know, I think people are enjoying gigs, and it's been a joy. Like you said at the start of the podcast, how we met and the joy at that park party, kids jumping around. So I'll keep gigging, keep recording, keep making music, and I think, remember, you'll always find a way to do what you want to do. If you're that passionate, you keep doing it. In terms of where to find me, it's mickmchugh.com. So it's Mick, MICK and then MCHUGH, but you'll have all the links there, mickmchugh.com. And then on Facebook and Instagram, it's usually Mick McHUGH Music. So that's all my original music and the Celtic Kids album. Then I also have The Gathering, which is The Gathering Irish Band. So that'll be on Instagram and Facebook. And that is what we call kick-arse Irish music, where we go out. It's a party Irish band. If you're travelling through Surfers Paradise or Brisbane, that's our resident home gigs. But we do tour around Australia, and we have done one world tour with another one hopefully to come.
Wow, fantastic. That sounds amazing.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you so much for the chat. I really enjoyed that. And it's just... the knowledge and wisdom is just flowing out of you. It's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that.
Look, I really tried to live like that way, to be inspiring to, because there's no book out there, and that's, this is my path, and hopefully they'll find bits that, can help people along the way of their own journey.
Good. Thank you. All the best for the next year.
Thanks for your work, Jan. Cheers.
Thank you. This was Mr. Mick McHUGH on the Production Talk podcast. Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and wisdom. Check him out on his social channels and on his website. Go to the show notes and scroll down, click his links and check it all out. If this was your first episode with us, thank you so much for listening. Please hit the subscribe button in your podcast application so you get notifications once the next episode is out. And also, don't forget to scroll through the backlog of older episodes. There are some fantastic ones among. With the holidays coming up, hopefully you will find some time to catch up on old episodes. In the meantime, if at any point during the last year the podcast was useful to you, if you got something good out for yourself, please do me a huge favor and think about all the friends and fellow musicians that you know who may also benefit from this. And please do me a favor and pass the message on. Reach out to them, tell them about this podcast, ask them to subscribe so that we can grow our listener base. If you want to reach out to me, of course, you can do so via my website, mixartist.com.au, where I offer mixdown services for clients worldwide and, of course, studio recording services on the east coast of Australia in a pretty amazing facility. So maybe you want to check out the studio photos on the website. And if at any time you feel like recording your music, I would really love to hear from you and talk about your plans. Okay, that's all for today. I hope you have a fantastic week. I'll speak to you again next week. Bye for now.